On today's Newsmakers, visiting heaven, biblical manhood, and the battle for life. That and more coming up. Welcome to Newsmakers, a show where we go behind the headlines each and every week to bring you interviews with pastors, entertainers, politicians, and other notable figures. On today's Newsmakers, we're joined first by Vanessa Joy Lancelotti. She says she had a stunning near-death experience you're going to want to hear about. Let's welcome her here to Newsmakers. Vanessa, it is so great to connect with you. You and I connected at a screening for Investigating the Supernatural Miracles, and it was really a powerful conversation. You shared with me a medical crisis you went through and a near-death experience that really immediately made me say, we need to talk with you. You need to come on and share your story. Let's start with the medical crisis. When did it happen? And take us through what unfolded.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Billy. So this actually happened the first week of February in 2016. I had a ruptured arterial venous malformation of the brain, or an AVM. And it's something that I wasn't aware I had, that you can actually develop like in the womb, like before birth. And so it just ruptured out of nowhere when I was having tea with my two sisters, Amanda and Melissa. We were just having a great girls' night. My husband and my brother-in-law were out bowling, and, we were just having a really good time, and, nothing stressful at all. And then all of a sudden I felt this really, really sharp pain in the back of my head. So I clutched my head and I went down to the ground on my knees and I started saying like, ow, ow, my head, my head. And, when I opened up my eyes, I couldn't see very well, and my speech started to go and different faculties, and I was really scared. I was really nervous. And thankfully, Melissa was, she's a medical professional. So she started to rule out like the worst case scenarios, and she knew enough that we needed to get to the hospital immediately.
Wow.
We did get seen by some doctors, and they ran a CAT scan, and they did detect that this is a severe brain hemorrhage that was happening, and it was still bleeding at that time. It hadn't stopped. So by that time, my husband did arrive at the hospital because Melissa stayed back and she was making phone calls, and she was calling friends and family and church members for prayer.
I can't imagine what he's thinking. You've been married 2 years, you're still basically newlyweds, and now he's being told his wife, his young wife, may not make it through the night. I mean, that had to have been traumatizing for him.
It was devastating. It was absolutely devastating to the whole family. It was a shock for all of us, and for him especially. And, he even had to go through, they were asking him, do you have a living will? That's not something that you're expecting when you're just having a good night. He's going bowling and we're just spending time as sisters having some tea together. And it's not anything that we were expecting at all.
Wow. And So when they're transporting you to this other hospital now, because you had to be transported where there was better medical care.
Yes.
This is where the story takes a really, really interesting turn.
Yeah.
Talk about what is happening in that ambulance and what you experienced.
Everything started to go into slow motion. Like everything really started to slow down very, very suddenly. And it was just like everything just started to get very slow. And all of a sudden, like that, I was taken out of the ambulance.
Wow.
And I had no pain. And it's like I had no recollection of the past at all whatsoever. It's like sin never existed. Pain never existed. No physical, spiritual, emotional pain at all. It's like it was all gone, and it was wiped away immediately. And I was in the presence of the Lord. It was just this bright, white, vibrant light around me, like this pure, pure white. It was so pure. It's hard to describe, like words, like English language can't even describe like the purity that was around me.
Yeah.
Like I just felt, I was surrounded by perfect peace. It was just like perfect, perfect, perfect peace. Like there was no sin, there was no death, there was no trauma of any kind at all whatsoever. And then I had an encounter with Jesus. Like he was standing before me. And
Wow.
I remember loud and clear, he said to me, "It is not yet your time." And after that, I just remember this huge, huge hand of God, like the righteous right hand of God coming over me as I went back into the ambulance or back into the hospital. It's like this huge, like enormous right hand of God was covering me. And when I get back into the hospital, I had a very difficult time speaking, of course, because I just had a major brain aneurysm. But what I do remember and what I could recall is the best way that I could, I kept describing, like, I just saw Jesus. I saw Jesus. He hugged me. He saved me.
So you remembered right away.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. This was, so people understand, your heart did not, as far as you know, your heart did not stop. So you were not dead.
Correct.
In any way, but the debate around whether or not these experiences are actual heaven or visions of heaven. What's your reflection on that based on your experience and what you felt and saw?
Yeah. And I love that question because people do ask that and they'll assume that maybe it was just a vision or something like that. And I have had visions. And so I know very clearly what a vision is. And it was no vision. I was literally in a new place. And I would say it was heaven, because when Jesus was on the cross, he said, you will be together with me in paradise today. So I believe I was in paradise. I was with him in heaven. And the fact that he said it is not yet your time would draw me to the conclusion that if the bleed hadn't stopped when it did, and when I had that encounter, then I would have died. I would have died that very night. And so I believe that I was in heaven with him. Absolutely. And so, that's why, I wrote a book about it, and I want other people to join me in heaven someday. I want them to be with Christ forever. So it was just incredible. It was both the worst night of my life, but the most amazing life.
Yeah.
Most amazing.
Well, I so appreciate you sharing your journey openly for your book and for really the incredible ministry you're doing through what God showed you, which, I know that these stories are not always easy to share, but they're important to share. And I appreciate you doing that today.
Thank you so much, Billy. It's such a blessing to be here with you. Thank you so much.
You can get Vanessa's book, Miracles Really Do Happen, Jesus Makes All Things New. You can grab that wherever books are sold. And we'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Next up, E.Z. Zwane, president of Living Waters, joins the show to talk all about biblical manhood in the fight against pornography. Let's welcome him here to Newsmakers. E.Z., it is always good to see you, and I want to dive into your book, Fight Like a Man, a bold biblical battle plan for personal purity. Let's start with the book. What was it that made you want to tackle this topic right now?
Yeah, well, Billy, thanks for having me on. And, this is one of those topics that no one really wants to talk about. In fact, man, I'm blessed that you're willing to discuss it, because it's not comfortable. And at the same time, it is massively, massively prevalent. And I don't mean prevalent in a positive sense. This issue of pornography that has been taking the world by storm is wreaking havoc. It's destroying men. It's destroying families, it's destroying society, it's ravaging the church. And so I was burdened to come out with something that filled in the gaps. There's a lot of books on this subject, but the tragedy is that they don't hit certain, I think, sweet spots that need to be hit. I wanted a book that was biblically based, but also theologically sound, while being extremely practical and very, very memorable. Because look, if you don't remember something and then you don't have practical steps to apply, what do you do with that? But then I also wanted it to be very gospel-centric, filled with grace, giving men hope. And so by God's grace, I've been blown away by how it's been doing since it's been released. It was a #1 new release on Amazon. They're #1 bestseller in its category and one of the top sellers of all categories on there. And I've been humbled. It was endorsed by Dr. John MacArthur, Kirk Cameron, Ray Comfort, Ken Ham wrote the foreword, our mutual friend. And it's been amazing to see how people have been responding to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge issue. And you're right. People don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend it's not happening. And I think it's because a lot of people are struggling with it. When you look at the polls, you see pastors, youth pastors, people in ministry, this issue of porn, and not just porn, but social media. Social media is very triggering for people.
Yeah.
And it's a huge struggle for a lot of even, marriages. They crumble because people reconnect with people through social media. They find people from the past. There's so many layers of this. Why do you think that we have a world that seems so intent on destroying sexual purity? This is such a focal point. Why? And I know there's a spiritual answer to this and a practical one as well.
Yeah.
But why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, we tend to forget that sex was God's idea, right? I mean, this thing didn't just kind of pop up on its own. But what we've seen happen is that the world has tainted it. Satan has twisted it. Our fallen flesh, our sinful nature has perverted it. And so, Billy, when we had the talk with our kids, I told my wife, I said, look, I want to present this to them in the way it should be presented. Because oftentimes when parents have the talk with their kids, it's like shifty eyes, nervous, I'm stuttering, God made this, man. He created it. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. And so I said, I want to present this in the right way. And, our kids' minds are like warehouses full of empty shells. Whoever gets there and stocks them first will make it harder for someone else to come unstock and restock them. We wanted to beat the world to it. So we said, kids, tonight we have something amazing and wonderful to talk to you about. And when we sat down and we unfolded it, it was that imprint on their minds. This is good, but we have to guard against what Satan has done. So the answer to your question is, look, yeah, we live in a world system that is contrary to God, right? We have an enemy who's real, who is the destroyer of our souls. We have our fallen sinful nature. So all of these elements compound, and there's like this confluence that comes together to wreak havoc in this way. And, 1 Corinthians 6:18 says, every sin that a man commits, he commits outside of the body. But he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. It's setting it aside as a distinct sin that has massive repercussions and ramifications. I mean, Romans chapter 1, it's a reprobation type of sin, sexual sin. It brings about destruction. So I think all of those come into play. And it's high time that we as Christians rise up and say, we're not going to cave into this. 75% of men in the church say that they dabble with pornography, 40% of women, and 18% of pastors. I think it's a lot higher because most won't be honest about that. 95% of 11-year-olds, Billy, will have looked at pornography. Crazy.
Well, it's smartphones, it's technology. I mean, what is your advice? Because I know a lot of people who have confided in me who they find themselves stuck, right? They get better, they walk away from it, they come back to it, they walk away, it's like this constant push and pull. And they're really trying to find freedom. And maybe some would argue they're not trying hard enough, but the reality is they're struggling to find freedom from this. How do you prepare to fight? How do you successfully battle back against it?
Yeah, great question. The book is entitled Fight Like a Man, a bold biblical battle plan for personal purity. The problem is, Billy, is men are not fighting. And when I say men, by extension, everyone, right? But the book is designed for men, though women have said it's helped them, and it's got a lot of practical stuff in there that I think is general. But men are not fighting. And, I start the book out with a war story, a war hero story. Of a man back in the World War II days, John Bassalon, who risked his life to save his comrades. And men don't fight anymore. We have this peacetime mentality when we are in the midst of wartime. Can you imagine a soldier in World War II being deceived into thinking that he's on a luxury cruise ship heading for the shores of Bora Bora to a luxury resort, when in reality he's on a Higgins boat heading towards the shores of World War II Normandy. This guy's going to saunter off the Higgins boat clad in a bathrobe, some fluffy slippers, a remote in one hand, and a latte in another, and he's going to get smoked. So men need to understand we need to fight. We need to know our enemy. We need to know his battle plan against us, and we need to have a battle plan against him, a counterattack, to be able to fight it off. And I'd say the other thing is that men have this sad excuse that says, I can't help it. And we can. If Elon Musk offered a man who's struggling with pornography $100 million if he went 6 months without looking at porn once, you and I know, Billy, that man would do it. And so there's that saying that says value impacts behavior. right? What we value will affect what we do in connection with that thing that we supposedly value. And so we need to rearrange our value system so that it aligns with the Lord. We're eternally minded, and we understand the repercussions and the ravages of sexual sin.
Well, I so appreciate you breaking this all down. The book is Fight Like a Man. Where can people go for more information?
Yeah, go to Amazon. I think that's the best place to get it, Amazon.com, and then just look up Fight Like a Man, A Bold Biblical Battle Plan for Personal Purity by Emil Zwane. And I hope the book impacts you. That's been my whole heart. You know, I wrote the book thinking if my 2 sons are impacted by this, praise the Lord. And I'm blown away by the tens of thousands now that have gotten the book in the last 6 months since it's been released. And I hope many more will get it.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. The book is Fight Like a Man. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me, Billy.
You can get Easy's new book, Fight Like a Man, A Bold Biblical Battle Plan for Personal Purity, Practical Strategies to Defeat Sexual Temptations and Restore Your Life. You can grab that wherever books are sold, and we'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. For our final segment, we are sitting down with Andrea Trudin. She's the Vice President of Communications and Marketing at Heartbeat International, and she's here today to talk about the battle for life. What is next? She's going to get into all that and more. Let's welcome her here to Newsmakers. Let's start with misconceptions. There are a lot of misconceptions about pregnancy centers, pregnancy care centers. What are some of those misconceptions?
Oh, that is a very good question. Yeah, so pregnancy help organizations have been around for more than 50 years. And what they do provide is care and resources for pregnant women who may be facing a difficult decision. It's unexpected. She just needs some support, maybe some medical care, so an ultrasound and things like that. Unfortunately, for some, they really don't like pregnancy centers because they do not provide abortion. And so they will attack the fact that, well, they're not, well, what they say is that they are not medical clinics, where the reality is 80% of our affiliates, which we have 2,200 in the States, 3,700 around the world, 80% of them are pregnancy help medical clinics, which means that they do fall under the guidance of a medical director. And so that is a claim that you will hear quite often, is that they are fake clinics, where the reality is actually quite the opposite. There are some pregnancy resource centers that are not medical. That's about 20%. They provide parenting classes, some material aid for women, and they may have other services. Maternity homes also are in the realm of pregnancy help organizations. None of them do refer or provide abortion, but again, 80% are medical. That's the biggest hit that we take. The other side is that they'll say that we are confusing women and deceiving women, whereas that couldn't be further from the truth. 97% of all women who are actual clients actually give us satisfactory ratings. So they appreciate the help and support that they're given through these pregnancy help organizations. And it is just a false narrative, to be perfectly blunt. If somebody were to go and actually visit a pregnancy center and see the services that are provided, then they definitely get a different perspective.
How has the work of pregnancy centers changed in the wake of Dobbs?
Very good question. So just before, of course, the Dobbs leak happened in May. And so what we saw right away is actually some violent attacks against pregnancy help organizations. So they did have to shift security measures, and we were providing them with some information and education as to how they could do that and properly prepare for how they could have better security, how they can better engage with the community, let them know what they do and those details so that they can have a little bit more security within the cities. In addition, abortion pill has taken off, specifically over the past 5 years, because during COVID, they suspended health and safety regulations that then allowed the abortion pill to be sent via mail. It is noted that more than about 2 out of every 3 abortions are now through the abortion pill. So pregnancy centers, for what that means for them is that their window of helping women is actually shrinking, because when a woman can get an abortion pill through the mail with no medical oversight or anything like that, their messaging and ability to reach her is shortened. They have to get to her before she makes that choice. So it's a lot of different marketing tactics that come into play in regard to educating the community about the dangers of the abortion pill, and then also about something called abortion pill reversal. So the abortion pill is actually two parts. There's two different pills. If after taking that first pill, the woman regrets that choice, she has a chance to reverse that decision. 2 out of 3 times it works, which is fantastic. She can call the Abortion Pill Rescue Network helpline and be connected to a local medical professional to help her through this. So it's a lot of education for pregnancy centers from that standpoint as well. But outside of the reaching women sooner and kind of beefing up security around the Dobbs era, much of the work is the same. They're there to receive these women, provide them with the care and help they need and encouragement when making this choice for their lives, and then walking alongside them through their pregnancy.
You know, as you're sort of looking at the landscape, because it is shifting and changing after Roe with the Dobbs decision and now with a second Trump administration, what are some of the things you're hoping to see happen legally at this point that would help the work that you're doing?
So we've already seen a lot of things move very quickly with the new administration taking in place. And most recently, what we've been watching very closely is the Trump administration has actually called for a study to be done on the safety of mifepristone, the abortion pill. So we are watching that very closely because what we hope will come from that is when the study comes out and is reported on, we're hoping that common sense REMS, health and safety measures, be placed back in protection of women, so that no woman is hurt or fewer women are harmed from this. So that is step one that we really hope to see. From there, we do hope that we are able to get more information in front of people. Right now, we are unfortunately censored on Google. We cannot tell anybody about abortion pill reversal through ads. Organically, it is there, but we haven't been able to actually advertise it since 2021. And so that's something that we're hoping the censorship dies down more and more, and that we're able to actually communicate the work that we do a little bit more readily.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill.
That was a fascinating conversation. You can get more information over at heartbeatinternational.org. We'll be right back in just a moment with more of the show. That's all for this week's Newsmakers. Thank you for watching, and be sure to head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel. That's where you will find all of the full interviews that you saw on today's episode. As for this show, we'll see you again next week.